Hello, this is Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. Now, I'm doing something unusual. I'm just coming on here real quick to talk about the new trailer for The Matrix Resurrections. Now, I usually don't do trailer videos. Well, I mean, sometimes it's for like a show like The Expanse or or back in the day, Game of Thrones. I get really excited for it. I do a trailer video, but I kind of gotten away from those. Especially don't do movie trailer videos because I kind of against this whole culture of like really get like this trailer culture. Like some people were more excited for the trailers than the actual movies themselves, which I don't know. That kind of annoyed me, and especially for a movie like The Matrix Resurrections, which isn't a movie I was particularly excited about. But after I saw this trailer, I had a lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. So I decided to finally just come on here and ramble off some of those thoughts real quick. First off, I'll say when I first heard that they were doing another Matrix movie, and those involved with creating the movie made it clear that it wasn't going to be a reboot; it was going to be a continuation. I was not interested. I was like, really? You're doing another Matrix movie? And let me get into like some of my thoughts on the original trilogy. Spoilers for that trilogy, by the way. I will spoil the hell out of it. So I like the first Matrix movies, but I don't think it's a masterpiece the way that many other people do. And in fact, I talked about this on my channel before. Like a lot of movies came out around that time. There was kind of like shattering reality, or saying that reality wasn't really what you thought. And Dark City was actually my favorite of those. So I actually prefer the movie Dark City. But they're doing a TV show for that apparently, and I'm a bit iffy on that. I don't know if that works as a TV show, but that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, so I like The Matrix, but I wouldn't put it as like one of my favorite movies of all time, one of the best movies of all time. In fact, my favorite Wachowski movie is still Cloud Atlas. I don't care what anybody says. But anyway, I actually preferred The Matrix Reloaded. And which is odd, and a lot of people were like, think it's blasphemy. But one of the reasons why I prefer it is because I don't think the first one's all that great in the first place. Like, I think of course it has that reveal of them being in the Matrix, and you're never gonna do that again. Like, and I'll talk about that more when it comes to this movie. But anyway, I don't know. There's parts of it, the movie, I felt dragged on and relied on too much of the action going, which I know a lot of people were blown away by. I don't particularly care about, fight choreography that much. It's just not something I'm particularly into. So, I mean, it was fine. It didn't detract from my enjoying the movie, but I didn't go not so crazy over it. And, yeah, and I did think it dragged a bit. I didn't like the fact that, all the characters died except for the three main ones. It kind of annoyed me. I'm against that trope. And then leaned a bit too heavy into the savior stereotype story, which is a bit cliche. But I still like the movie. I just don't think it was amazing. Reloaded, on the other hand, it was a bit more original. It's and I like the fight scenes better. I just said I wasn't into fight choreography, but I actually preferred the Reload. I think the freeway fight scene is one of my favorite fight scenes of all time. Now, people bitch about how unrealistic it is, but they're in the Matrix! It's a fake environment. I think a lot of people forget it's a virtual environment, so it's actually, I think it gets away with being unrealistic. And these people who are fighting are aware that it's a virtual environment. That's another important key to that. Anyway, so, and they've been trained to fight in a virtual, environment. But anyway, so they gets away with doing all this unrealistic shit that like Fast and Furious movies, I just roll my eyes at that bullshit. But I liked it here. And I just thought Reloaded was more intense. Like I just got more involved with the plot. I think it flowed better. As I said, I thought the first movie dragged a bit. And I thought it was more, the characters were further developed, and it went outside of the simple savior complex story, and the story got more complex, which I liked. However, the worst thing about The Matrix Reloaded, which again I wouldn't say that movie's a masterpiece either. I just prefer it maybe slightly more than the first one. The worst thing about it is the ending, which is a stupid cliffhanger ending because it didn't really have an ending, and it was just a dumb cliffhanger ending that led into the third movie, which was a giant pile of dog shit. I hated the third movie so much. Now, the second movie, more issues with that is the whole thing with Agent Smith and how they had a whole shitload of him fighting like that. Those fight scenes got a bit tedious. But then the third movie leaned, like the Matrix scenes were only about fucking the Agent Smith. And that ending fight scene where there's like thousands of him and he's just, I'm just gonna fight you while the rest of me watches. Like, that was stupid. And they were doing like flying in the air X-Men shit. Again, better in Dark City. Anyway, so, and the main problem with the third movie is it focused on these characters of Zion, which I didn't give a shit about. I had all these characters that they just introduced and you didn't give two fucks about, and had entire like war scenes focusing on these characters you barely know. And I'm like, what? And like fucking Morpheus wasn't even there. He's like running on the ship trying to get back while this big war is going on with all these characters you could not give two shits about. And it was just an overabundance of CGI diarrhea. And yeah, it was just terrible. And the worst thing about it was the ending, where the solution was to, and you know, the revelation that there's always been, you know, a one and whatever, and they just keep repeating it in cycles, which they revealed at the end of the second film. I thought they were going to do something interesting with that, but no. The solution to the problem was they'll just make a truce with the robots to leave Zion alone, but they still keep the Matrix. But the whole point is to free people from the Matrix. Like, that ending really pissed me off. It didn't sit right with me. Who the fuck cares? I don't give a shit about Zion. Zion is some stupid thing when they have like these raves that was just introduced in the second movie. I don't give a fuck about Zion. I wanted them to take down the Matrix. But no. They came to an agreement that they keep the Matrix up, but they allow Zion to exist. And how does that even work? I don't know. I thought it was dumb. So, to me, that kind of damaged the whole trilogy. And then there's the Animatrix, which kind of actually saves the third movie just a tad, but I won't get into that. Just a tad. The third movie still sucks. And so my feeling of doing another Matrix movie is like, well, you already fucked this trilogy. You already fucked this whole saga with the third movie. So doing another one is just like, it's just gonna suck. Now, finally, at the 8 minute mark, I'm going to get into the thoughts on the actual trailer. I like the trailer. This is mainly what I wanted to talk about. It surprised me. This was a good trailer. Now, I did a video recently for my 5 favorite trailers, and frankly, this is a contender for it. But of course, just because the trailer's good doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. That's another thing. But it does have me more hopeful and excited for this movie. Of course, I could just be having my expectations be too high and it ends up sucking just like I thought it would before. But this trailer made me really rethink that maybe this movie might actually be good. Because it was a good trailer. Like, they had a great use of the White Rabbit song, and an interesting concept as well, and just the way that the whole trailer flowed. It was a damn good trailer. Now, my biggest worry about this movie is that it may end up being a soft reboot of the first movie, because alright, so they have Keanu Reeves, and of course he's old and he runs into God, what's that? I can't even remember the actress' name, but the one from Memento who's in The Matrix. She's a good actress. I like her. She also had, she was in The Humans. But anyway, it has him run into her, Trinity's character's name, and they don't. They're like, "Do I know you?" So it seems to imply that this is, and of course, Resurrection's title implies this kind of a reboot. Now, in the original Matrix trilogy, they mentioned that there was different versions, like they did the one a whole different times, and of course, you assume that was like different people, not Keanu Reeves every time. But for the sake of the cash and bringing Keanu Reeves back, maybe that's what they're saying is the case, and this is just another version of their recycling, a different version of the one, so it's not the same character of Neo. But anyway, the trailer shows him basically going through the same journey, and it seems like, or at least the trailer spent more time on like pre-going into the Matrix or pre-discovering it's the Matrix than the first movie did. So they may spend more time before he actually takes the red pill or whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But anyway, it does seem like they'll spend more time on that. So it's kind of just rehashing the first Matrix movie. And what someone always told me, and they said this about the Matrix sequels, but I think it's more true here, is that you can only pull the wool over the audience's eyes once, which they did in the first film because no one knew what the Matrix was. In fact, that was a big selling point. The trailers was like, nobody knows what the Matrix is. You'll have to experience it yourself. So it was a big twist when you found out what the deal was. But it's a well-known franchise now that's been out for over 20 years, so everyone knows what the fucking Matrix is. So you can't shock the audience. So I don't see what the benefit of spending so much time with Keanu Reeves finding out what the Matrix is. It seems like they would just be rehashing the first movie, and they could, of course, come into dangers of rehashing the savior, the one trope, or whatever. However, what has me hopeful is that this movie could save the franchise for me if they kind of undo some of the bullshit they did in the third movie, because that third movie sucked. And how they could do that is by having, and maybe not doing it in this movie alone, maybe they set up sequels or whatever, but if they at least imply that this version of the one is going to find a way to break the cycle and break the Matrix. Fuck that stupid agreement. Oh, we're going to agree that we leave Zion alone. Fuck Zion. Maybe this one will reveal that the machines went back on their truce and killed everyone in Zion anyway. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that this is setting up for this version of the one, which is, said his name was Thomas. I can't remember his first name I know it was Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. But I don't think his first name was Thomas. So this could be an actual different person, but serve the same purpose as the one. Or a different version or reincarnation, or however you want to say it. That would go with the theme of Cloud Atlas. Anyway, but I hope that this version of the one destroys the Matrix and defeats, because that was supposed to be the whole point of the one. Of course, we found out at the big reveal in the second movie was with the architect. And by the way, I love the architect scene. I don't care what anyone says. But anyway, the big reveal with the architect scene was that the one that wasn't really, it was just a fake out. It was just the Matrix's way of keeping the system going, where they would pretend that the one could take down the Matrix. But if in this movie, if they actually does take down the Matrix, or at least set up to actually take down the Matrix and fuck this treaty, then that would kind of save the saga for me. That would save the franchise for me. Let's undo the stupid events of, well, don't pretend they don't exist. First of all, they at least need to acknowledge. That's what I hope it's not like a real reboot where they just pretend the events of the third movie didn't happen. As much as I hate it, at least acknowledge it, but undo it and make it better. And say, oh yeah, fuck the treaty. We're going to actually, so this version of Neo, or this version of the one, needs to be different. is what I'm saying. They need to do something fresh and different. So if they do that, this could be a really great movie. But if they just rehash the first film and it's just a different version of the first film, it's basically the Force Awakens for the Matrix, then that's gonna suck. I mean, it has, because then you get back to you can only pull the wool over the audience's eyes once, because we all know what the Matrix is. So they just do the same thing. That's boring, and who cares? But I get the sense from the trailer. And again, I may just be getting my expectations way too high. But I get the sense from the trailer that they may undo that. That they may do something new and fresh with it. Yeah. It's weird seeing, like, Keanu Reeves looks like total John Wick. It's like seeing John Wick in the Matrix, but whatever. I wonder if they make the character more like John Wick now. The other thing I was going to mention is that part of the appeal of the Matrix is that even it was taking place hundreds of years in the future, but the Matrix itself was perpetually stuck in 1999, which they saw as the height of civilization. And from this trailer, it's obvious that the Matrix is actually set in modern times now, 2021 or 2020 or whatever. It's not, well, forgetting about the pandemic, of course, because it's the Matrix, but it's set in modern times rather than, because people are you see people in the elevator with iPads and smartphones and whatnot, so they're not setting it in 1999, which is fine. I'm fine with updating that, and in fact, it actually makes sense in the universe if this is a different version of the Matrix, like it updates every so often, that they could set it in different time periods every so often, is not always stuck in 1999. So I'm fine with that aspect of it, and it makes sense to update the franchise as well. But yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious to see this movie now. I mean, it's going to be on HBO Max, so I'll probably just watch it there, to be honest. But I'm a lot more excited for it, but trepidatious, because it still could suck. Still could just be a soft reboot, a rehash, a cash grab. I mean, the fact that only one of the Wachowskis came back for it does have me a bit worried, but I don't know. I have no idea about the backstory of any of that. But we'll see. I'm willing to go with it and see where they're going. So anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts. Just thought I'd come in here and say that. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.